The truck driver checks his clipboard.
You shouldn't have crossed that
42
line.
cattle. But Wade only sold 41.
You know what happens now.
The rancher is 3 months from losing everything. His land, his legacy, his daughter's future. He's desperate, broken. One limping bull is all he has left, and everyone says it's worthless. But then a phone call comes, a geneticist from Arizona. She's been searching for years, and she found something in that bull's blood, something no one could see. That worthless animal hiding in the back pen, it was worth millions. And if that driver had loaded one more bull that morning, the greatest genetic discovery in ranching history would have ended up as hamburger. This is the story of how a mistake became a miracle. The Texas sun beat down mercilessly on the Triple K ranch, turning the dust into a fine powder that coated everything. The fence posts, the barn walls, even the inside of Wade Kellerman's throat as he stood in the cattle pen, watching his life crumble one cow at a time. That's my final offer, Wade. Take it or leave it. Frank Castellano stood on the other side of the fence, his pressed shirt and polished boots a stark contrast to Wade's worn jeans and sweat-stained hat. Castellano owned the largest feedlot operation in 3 counties, and he knew Wade had nowhere else to go. 60 cents a pound is robbery, Frank. You know it and I know it. What I know is you're 3 months behind on your loan payment and the bank's breathing down your neck. Castellano spit tobacco juice into the dirt. Market's flooded. Everyone's selling. You want to hold out for a better price, be my guest. But come November, this'll be the bank's ranch, not yours. Wade looked at his remaining herd, 42 head of Angus cattle that represented everything he'd worked for over the past 15 years. His father had built this ranch from nothing, survived droughts and recessions and the mad cow scare of the early 2000s. But his father hadn't lived to see his son nearly lose it all to a combination of bad luck and worse timing. I need until Friday, Wade said. Let me make some calls, see if... Friday's Halloween. Nobody's buying cattle on Halloween, Wade. This is business, not a holiday sale. Castellano pulled out his phone, not even looking at Wade as he spoke. I got other ranchers lined up. You want out or not? Wade's jaw tightened. His daughter Emma's college tuition was due in 2 weeks. The feed supplier had stopped delivering on credit. His foreman, old Miguel Torres, hadn't taken a paycheck in a month and hadn't complained once, but Wade saw the worry in his eyes every morning. I'll take it, Wade said, the words tasting like ash. All except one. Castellano looked up. What? The bull with the bum leg, the gimpy one in the back pen. He's not part of the deal. That 3-legged disaster? Castellano laughed. Hell, Wade, I wouldn't take him if you paid me. What are you going to do with a lame bull? That's my business. Suit yourself. I'll have my trucks here Saturday morning, 6 a.m. sharp. Have 'em ready to load. Castellano climbed into his king cab pickup and drove off, leaving Wade alone in the pen with his cattle and his failure. Miguel appeared at the fence, his weathered face creased with concern. The 68-year-old Mexican immigrant had worked the Triple K for 30 years, taught Wade everything he knew about ranching. You sold to Castellano, Miguel said. Not a question. Didn't have a choice. There's always a choice, mijo. Just sometimes all the choices are bad ones. They walked together toward the back pen, where the rejected bull stood apart from the others. His name was Goliath, which Wade's daughter had thought was funny when she was 12. A massive Angus bull with a distinctive white patch on his face, 1,800 pounds of pure muscle, except for his left rear leg that he favored heavily. The result of a bad break 6 months ago that never healed right. The vet had recommended putting him down. Wade couldn't do it. What are you keeping him for? Miguel asked. He can't breed, can't be sold for beef. He's just eating feed we can't afford. I don't know, Wade admitted. But Dad always said, when you don't know what to do, don't do anything. Wait for clarity. Your father also said a rancher who lets sentiment override sense won't be ranching long. Wade didn't have an answer for that. That night, Wade sat at his kitchen table, going over the numbers for the 100th time. Even with Castellano's lowball payment, he'd barely cover the immediate debts. There'd be nothing left for Emma's spring semester, nothing for operating costs, nothing to rebuild the herd. The Triple K would limp along for maybe another year before the bank foreclosed anyway. His phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Dad, don't worry about tuition. I can take a semester off, work full-time at the diner. Wade typed back, "Absolutely not. You focus on your studies. I've got this handled." A lie. But what else could he say? He walked out onto the porch, beer in hand, and stared at the dark shapes of his cattle in the distance. Somewhere out there, Goliath stood alone, damaged goods, worthless on paper. Wade understood the feeling. His phone rang, a number he didn't recognize with an Arizona area code. This Wade Kellerman? A woman's voice, professional, clipped. Speaking. "My name's Dr. Vanessa Reeves. I'm a veterinary geneticist with Southwest Bio Research. I'm calling about one of your bulls." Wade's first thought was that somehow word had gotten out about Goliath's condition, that this was some kind of insurance scam or animal cruelty investigation. "Which bull?" he asked carefully. "I don't have a name, just a tag number from a DNA registry sample taken at a livestock show 3 years ago. Tag number K-773. Wade knew every tag number on his ranch by heart. K-773 was Goliath. "What about him?" "Mr. Kellerman, are you sitting down? Because what I'm about to tell you is going to sound impossible, but I assure you it's verified by 3 independent labs." She paused. "Your bull carries an extremely rare genetic mutation we've been searching for, one that could revolutionize disease resistance in cattle worldwide." Wade sat down on the porch steps. "I'm listening." Dr. Vanessa Reeves spoke with the controlled excitement of a scientist trying not to sound crazy. 3 years ago, your bull was shown at the West Texas Livestock Exhibition in Lubbock. Standard procedure. They took blood samples for the breed registry database. That sample sat in cold storage until 6 months ago when we ran a genomic screening project searching for naturally occurring resistance markers. Wade's beer sat forgotten beside him. Resistance to what? Bovine respiratory disease complex, primarily, but the implications go far beyond that. "Mr. Kellerman, your bull has a mutation on chromosome 14 that we've never seen before. It affects immune system regulation in a way that makes him essentially resistant to multiple common cattle diseases, pneumonia, foot rot, even some parasitic infections that cost the beef industry billions annually." "That's impossible. Goliath's been sick plenty of times." "Has he? Or has he recovered faster than your other cattle? Have you noticed he never seems to get what the others get?" Wade thought back. The respiratory outbreak 2 winters ago that killed 3 calves and sickened most of the herd. Goliath had been fine. The pink eye epidemic last spring that required treating 24 head. Goliath never showed symptoms. Wade had chalked it up to coincidence, good luck, strong genetics from his father's side. "What does this have to do with me? You want his DNA for research?" "We want more than that, Mr. Kellerman. We want to license breeding rights. With artificial insemination, we can propagate this trait through thousands of cattle. Within a decade, we could dramatically reduce disease-related losses across the entire industry. We're prepared to offer you $200,000 up front for exclusive breeding rights, plus royalties on every AI straw sold. Conservatively, that's another $300,000 to $500,000 over the next 5 years. Wade's hand tightened on the phone. "You're telling me that lame bull is worth $500,000? At minimum. Possibly much more if the trait proves as valuable as we project. But here's the critical part. We need him intact and healthy. The mutation affects breeding viability in complex ways we don't fully understand yet. We need the source animal, not just his frozen genetics. We'd want to transport him to our facility in Tucson within the next 2 weeks to begin the breeding program. He's got a bad leg. Broke it months ago, never healed right. Your veterinary team know about that?" A pause. "We saw notations about an injury in his medical records. That's actually part of why it took us so long to contact you. We needed to verify he was still alive and could still breed. The leg won't affect the genetic trait we're interested in. Can he still mount?" I haven't tried breeding him since the injury. We'll need to verify that before finalizing any agreement. Mr. Kellerman, I'm flying into Amarillo tomorrow afternoon. I can drive down to Pampas by evening, examine the bull myself, and we can discuss terms. Would that work?" Wade looked out at the dark pasture where Goliath stood, the bull he'd almost put down, the animal Castellano had literally laughed at. "Yeah, that would work." After they hung up, Wade sat motionless for a long time. Then he dialed Miguel. Jefe, it's almost midnight. I need you to do something for me first thing in the morning. What? Move Goliath to the isolation pen, the one by the north barn, away from the others. And don't mention him to anyone, especially not Castellano's crew when they come to pick up the herd Saturday. Miguel was quiet for a moment. You gonna tell me why? Maybe, probably, but not yet. Just trust me. Always have, mijo. Always will. Wade barely slept that night. He ran the numbers obsessively, calculating what $200,000 meant. It would pay off the bank loan completely, cover Emma's tuition through graduation, rebuild his operating capital, even leave enough to start rebuilding his herd with better stock. But a voice in the back of his mind whispered warnings. This was too good to be true. There had to be a catch. These genetic research companies were notorious for complicated contracts with hidden clauses. What if they took Goliath and he never saw a dime? What if the breeding rights were worth millions and he was signing them away for pennies? At dawn, he called his lawyer, old Bill Henderson, who'd handled his father's estate and knew ranch business inside and out. Wade, it's 6 a.m. I need you to review a contract for me. Today. It's urgent. What kind of contract? The kind that might save my ranch or might be the biggest mistake of my life. I can't tell which yet. Henderson agreed to clear his afternoon. Wade spent the morning helping Miguel move Goliath to the isolation pen, then nervously watched the hours tick by until a silver SUV with Arizona plates pulled up the drive at 5:47 p.m. Dr. Vanessa Reeves was not what Wade expected. Mid-30s, tall, mixed-race woman with natural hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, wearing field clothes and boots that had actually seen mud. She shook his hand with a firm grip and got straight to business. Where's the bull? Wade led her to the isolation pen. Goliath stood in the corner, his distinctive white-patched face turning toward them as they approached. His left rear leg was clearly compromised. He shifted his weight awkwardly, favoring it even when standing still. Dr. Reeves climbed the fence, moving slowly, speaking softly. Goliath watched her but didn't retreat. She examined him from different angles, taking photos with her phone, making notes. The leg's worse than I expected, she said. But his overall condition is excellent. Good muscle tone, clear eyes, healthy coat. How's his temperament? Gentle for a bull. My daughter used to hand-feed him apples when she was younger. Perfect. Bulls with aggressive tendencies can be difficult for AI collection. She climbed back over the fence. I need to run some tests. Blood work, physical examination, breeding viability assessment. With your permission, I'd like to bring my mobile vet unit here tomorrow morning. Before we go any further, I need my lawyer to review your contract terms. Smart man. I expected nothing less. She pulled a tablet from her bag, tapped it a few times, then handed it to him. Standard agreement. Your attorney will want to pay special attention to sections 4 and 7, breeding rights and royalty structures. We're offering 15% of gross revenues from AI sales, which is high for this type of arrangement. Most operations offer 5 to 8. Wade scrolled through the document. Pages and pages of legal language that might as well have been written in Greek. Why so generous? Because this mutation is that valuable. And because we need you to maintain ownership and care of the animal. We're not buying him. We're partnering with you. He stays on your ranch, lives out his natural life here. We just need collection rights and cooperation with our breeding program. What if he can't breed? What if the leg injury affected that? Then we negotiate alternative terms, but let's not borrow trouble, one step at a time. She extended her hand again. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., we'll know for certain what we're dealing with. After she left, Wade drove straight to Bill Henderson's office in town and spent 2 hours going through the contract line by line. Henderson's verdict was cautiously optimistic. It's legitimate. She's legitimate. I checked out her company while you were driving over. Funded by 3 major agricultural corporations, peer-reviewed research publications, the whole 9 yards. The terms are favorable, surprisingly so. The only red flag is Section 12, which says what? That if the bull dies or becomes unable to breed before producing viable offspring, all payments cease and you owe back any advance money already received. Wade's stomach dropped. So, if something happens to Goliath before they get what they need, you're worse off than you started. Yeah, Saturday morning arrived cold and gray. Wade stood at the main gate at 5:45 a.m., coffee steaming in his hand, watching the road. Castellano's trucks would arrive at 6 to load the cattle he'd sold, 41 head, not 42. Goliath remained hidden in the north isolation pen, a quarter-mile from the main loading area. Miguel had spent yesterday reinforcing that pen's fence, making sure Goliath couldn't wander out and accidentally get loaded with the others. At 6:03, 3 livestock trailers rumbled up the drive, but they weren't Castellano's distinctive red and white rigs. These were plain silver trailers with Harmon Livestock Transport, Amarillo, printed on the sides. The lead driver climbed out, a young guy, maybe 25, with a clipboard. "Wade Kellerman?" "That's me, but you're not Castellano's crew." "Castellano contracted us for the pickup. Said you had 42 head ready to load?" Wade's chest tightened. 41, not 42. The driver checked his clipboard, frowning. "My paperwork says 42 Angus cattle, mixed steers and cows, pickup at Triple K Ranch, delivery to Castellano feedlot." He showed Wade the work order. There it was in black and white, 42 head. "There's been a mistake," Wade said. "I'm only selling 41. Castellano knows that. We discussed it specifically." The driver pulled out his phone. "Let me call the office." He stepped away, speaking in low tones Wade couldn't hear. Miguel appeared at Wade's elbow. "Problem?" "Paperwork says 42. Someone screwed up." "Or Castellano figured he'd take all of them and sort it out later," Miguel muttered darkly. "Wouldn't be the first time he pulled something like that." The driver returned. "My dispatcher says the contract is for 42 head. If there's a dispute, that's between you and Castellano. But I got to load what's on the paperwork, or I don't get paid." "The bull in the north pen is not for sale," Wade said firmly. "You can take the 41 in the main pens, that's it." "Sir, I understand, but you want to call the sheriff? Because I will. That bull is my property, and he's not leaving this ranch." The driver sighed, clearly not paid enough to deal with rancher disputes at 6 in the morning. "All right, fine. We'll load the 41. But you need to settle this with Castellano before he comes after me for the missing animal." They spent the next 2 hours loading cattle. Wade and Miguel checked every animal that went up the ramp, counting carefully. 41 head loaded, trailers secured, and the trucks rolled out at 8:14 a.m. Wade immediately called Castellano. Voicemail. He called again. Voicemail. He sent a text. "Your drivers tried to take 42 head. Contract was for 41. Bull in North Penn is not part of sale. Call me." No response. At 9 a.m. sharp, Dr. Reeves arrived with a mobile veterinary unit, a modified RV filled with medical equipment. She brought an assistant, a young veterinarian named Dr. Marcus Park. "Ready to see what we've got?" Reeves asked. They spent 3 hours examining Goliath. Blood draws, physical measurements, and finally the breeding viability test using a dummy mount. Despite his damaged leg, Goliath proved fully capable. "This is excellent," Reeves said, her excitement barely contained. "The leg injury is unfortunate, but it doesn't affect what we need. Mr. Kellerman, assuming your attorney approved the contract terms, we're ready to move forward." Wade pulled out the signed contract. "One question. Section 12, the clause about if something happens to Goliath before you get viable offspring. How long until you'd have what you need? First collection is today. We'd freeze multiple samples immediately as backup. Then we'd want monthly collections for the next 6 months to build an adequate genetic bank. After that, even if something happened to him, we'd have enough material to proceed with the breeding program. You'd still get your full payments. So I just need to keep him alive and healthy for 6 months." "Exactly." Wade signed. Reeves countersigned. Dr. Park began the collection process while Reeves transferred the initial payment, $200,000, via bank wire right there on her phone. Wade watched his banking app update in real time. The number changed. His account, which had been desperately negative, suddenly showed a positive balance with 6 figures. "We'll be back next month for the second collection," Reeves said as they packed up. Meanwhile, keep doing whatever you've been doing. He looks healthy and well cared for. After they left, Wade just sat on the fence rail, watching Goliath graze peacefully, his distinctive white patch bright in the afternoon sun. His phone rang. Castellano, finally. Wade, we got a problem. My trucks delivered 41 head, but I paid for 42. I told you the bull with the bad leg wasn't included, and I'm telling you my paperwork says 42, which means you owe me one bull or you owe me money. That gimpy bull is worth what, couple $100 for dog food? Just load him up, I'll send a truck back. No. What do you mean, no? I mean that bull isn't for sale. Not now, not ever. Your paperwork is wrong. Castellano's voice went cold. You trying to screw me, Kellerman? I'm honoring exactly what we agreed to. 41 head. You got what you paid for. That bull's worthless anyway. Why you being difficult? That's my business. A long pause. This isn't over, Wade. The line went dead. Miguel had been listening. He's gonna make trouble. Let him try. But as Wade walked back toward the house, his triumph felt fragile. He'd just deposited $200,000, enough to save his ranch. But he'd also made an enemy of the most powerful cattle buyer in the region, and he still needed to keep Goliath alive and healthy for 6 more months. 3 weeks passed. Wade paid off his bank loan in full, deposited Emma's tuition, and restocked his feed supplies. The relief was profound, but fragile, like standing on ice he wasn't sure would hold. Castellano hadn't called again, which made Wade more nervous than if he'd been making threats. Then the problem started. First, the feed supplier called. Wade, I got a complaint filed against you with the county ag board. Says you sold cattle with fraudulent health certificates. That's impossible. Every animal was properly certified. I know that, but now there's an investigation. Until it's cleared, I can't extend you credit anymore. Cash only. 2 days later, his veterinarian, Dr. Sandra Mills, who'd treated his cattle for a decade, called with barely concealed anger. Someone reported me to the state licensing board. Anonymous tip that I've been falsifying vaccination records for your ranch. Sandra, that's insane. I know it is, but I've got inspectors coming Monday. And Wade, I can't afford to have your ranch associated with my practice right now. I'm sorry, but I have to refer you to another vet. The pattern became clear. Castellano was using his connections to make Wade's life difficult, not breaking any laws, just making phone calls, filing complaints, spreading doubt. Nothing Wade could prove, but devastating nonetheless. Miguel found out the local cattle auction had quietly blacklisted Wade from selling there. The grain elevator suddenly required cash up front instead of the credit terms they'd given him for years. Even the livestock insurance company sent a letter saying they needed to reevaluate his coverage. He's trying to strangle you slowly, Miguel said. Make it impossible to operate until you're forced to sell out. Wade stood at Goliath's pen, watching the bull graze. 5 more months until Dr. Reeves had enough genetic material. 5 months of keeping this animal healthy while Castellano tried to destroy everything around him. His phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Kellerman? This is Deputy Chen with the Pampas County Sheriff's Office. We've received a complaint about possible animal neglect on your property. I need to schedule a welfare inspection of your livestock. Animal neglect? My cattle are in perfect condition. I'm sure they are, sir, but we have to follow up on all complaints. Would tomorrow at 10 a.m. work? Wade agreed, then immediately called Dr. Reeves. We might have a problem. He explained Castellano's campaign of harassment, the upcoming inspection. Don't let them see Goliath, Reeves said immediately. If word gets out about his value, you'll have every opportunist in Texas trying to figure out angles, keep him isolated, keep quiet. The inspection the next day was thorough but professional. Deputy Chen walked the property, checked water sources, examined the cattle Wade had left. Everything passed. Someone's wasting our time, Chen said apologetically. Your operation looks fine. Sorry for the trouble. But that night, Wade couldn't sleep. He walked out to check on Goliath at 2 a.m., flashlight in hand, and found Miguel already there, sitting on the fence with a thermos of coffee and a shotgun across his lap. What are you doing? Wade asked. Making sure nobody gets any ideas. I've been thinking, Jefe. Castellano knows you kept that bull for a reason. He's not stupid. He's gonna figure out that bull's worth something eventually. So what do? You guard him like he's worth $500,000, because he is. Miguel poured coffee into a second cup he'd brought. I'll take night shifts. You take days. We don't leave him alone until Dr. Reeves has what she needs. Wade climbed up on the fence beside his old foreman. Together they sat in the darkness, watching Goliath sleep, protecting the animal that had become both salvation and target. You know what's funny? Wade said quietly. Everyone thought he was worthless, broken. I almost put him down, and it turns out that bull's the only thing standing between me and losing everything Dad built. Your father used to say God works in mysterious ways. Maybe this is one of them. Or maybe it's just dumb luck. Maybe dumb luck is just God staying anonymous. They sat in comfortable silence until dawn broke over the Texas plains, painting the sky the color of rust and hope. 4 months into the breeding program, Wade woke to Miguel's panicked call. Goliath's down. Bad. The bull lay on his side, the old leg massively swollen and infected. Wade called Dr. Reeves, then faced reality. He had no vet. Castellano's campaign had blacklisted him everywhere. Swallowing pride, Wade dialed. Frank, I need help. My bull is dying. Silence. Then, I'll send Dr. Hammond. The vet arrived fast. Septic infection. The leg needs amputation or he dies today. Can he still breed? Wade's voice cracked. On 3 legs with AI collection? Yes, but we operate now or lose him. 6 hours later, Goliath woke groggy, confused, struggling on 3 legs. Wade stayed close, talking softly until the bull settled. Castellano showed up uninvited, watching from his truck. Wade walked over. Come to gloat? To apologize. I made calls, found out about your deal with bioresearch. That worthless bull is worth millions. He extended his hand. I was wrong. Truce? Wade shook it. Call off your people. All of it. Already done. Dr. Reeves confirmed they'd collected enough genetic material. We're set. Even if something happens now, the program continues. Wade watched Goliath gain confidence on 3 legs. You know what's crazy? Your driver's paperwork said 42 head. Castellano tried to take Goliath. If I hadn't stopped him, he'd have been slaughtered within a month. Nobody would have known about the mutation. Reeves went pale. That's not a wrong pickup. That's a miracle. Miguel brought coffee. How's our $1 million tripod? Goliath bellowed, proud, defiant, alive on 3 legs. The limp that made him unsellable had saved his life long enough to be discovered. Sometimes what everyone calls worthless turns out to be priceless. Sometimes salvation comes limping. Wade raised his cup. To broken things that turn out to be treasures. In the pen, Goliath took another confident step into his new life, proving that the greatest value often hides in what others overlook.